Hi, I'm John Kursky, and in part 3 of making you an AI-enabled Power BI tester, I'm going to show you how to use Power Automate to automatically run your tests in your semantic model. Now, before we get started, don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel so you can stay up to date on all the new videos and new features we'll be rolling out in the coming weeks. And with that, in our last video, I showed you the naming conventions and how to set up tests for DAX measures. Now, let's say you've built a bunch of tests and you've been running those locally, but you'd want to make sure that once you have that semantic model in the service, whether that's in your dev workspace, a test workspace, or a production workspace, you want to be able to have it automatically check to see after a refresh, do all the tests pass? Or did the latest tests that somebody, or the changes that somebody made to a model in development, do all the tests pass now with those changes? Well, I'm going to show you a template that we built at Power Query Lint to help you get started. So up on the screen here, this should be familiar for you. We have the sample model that I've used. I will provide a link to this version in the description of the YouTube video. And I've got the test laid out where we've got our, click in here, our data quality that runs in any environment. I've got my prod one that runs against production. I've got my development ones, and I've got another development one as well. Now, normally I would be running these tests locally to see if they all pass, but once I have it in the service, I want to be able to run those checks as well. Well, Power Query Lint has a retrieval function, and if I zoom in, you can retrieve all the tests that you've created by hitting PQL.Assert retrieve tests, and you can see now I've got the tests here. Now, if I want to just pull the test for a certain environment, we also have a set of tests where you can, or a function that does Power Query Lint.Assert retrieve test by environment, and then you can identify the environment. Now, quick side note is, I've talked about dev, test, and prod, but if you have different naming conventions, this is just looking for the characters before the .test file. So if you have maybe staging or UAT, you can build it the way you need to, and then you can retrieve it just by passing in the appropriate string to retrieve the test for that environment. Now, when I run this against dev, you'll see instead of showing the prod test, it's going to show any of the tests that have any or dev. Now, any is, hey, run this in any environment. Here are the dev tests to run in specific environments. Now, at this point, if I publish the semantic model to the service, and I have done that already in one of the environments I have here. So this is out in the service. Let's say I want to be able to run checks against this model anytime it finishes refreshing or at a certain cadence. Well, we have a template for you to help you get started. Now, why is this important to the work that we're doing to make you an AI-enabled tester? Well, the reason we want to do that is you have a good foundation for building tests. You have a good foundation on understanding the syntax to build tests. You have a good foundation to understand how tests can be automatically run. Then you can let AI do the work. So this is why in this first 3 parts, you haven't seen a lot of AI. That's going to come in part 4. But this is kind of rounds out what you need to understand how this all comes together before you let AI do the work. So that was a quick aside. Let's get back to the workspace here. I've got the sample model here. Now, I'm going to post this link in the YouTube chat, but on our PQL.Assert site, there is an examples folder. And if you click into that, there is a Power Automate folder. And you can download the starter solution. Now, this starter solution will have a Power Automate flow, and it is going to have a set of variables that you can use to set, which I'm going to show you in a second. So if you have a Power Automate environment, so I'm going to just, Power Apps environment, which includes Power Automate. So I'm on make.powerapps.com. This is in a commercial environment. This will also work in GCC and DoD. If you run import solution, so download the zip file, and I go to import the solution, I go to browse, I go pick the zip file and hit next. You'll see I've got an unmanaged solution I'm importing into the environment. I'm going to hit the next button. Now, typically what you're going to get, I'm going to zoom in a little bit, is a connection. If you already have existing Power BI connections, I'll leverage that one. You can always switch the account and set up the connection to the workspace. And then you'll hit next. Now, normally, if this is the first time you're importing the solution, this is going to be blank. And our template has it set up to point to one semantic model workspace. You can always augment this to iterate through more than one, because you'll have access to the underlying Power Automate model. But in order to grab this information, you can go back to this semantic model and go to Settings. And up at the top here, this is your workspace after Groups, and this is your semantic model ID, which is also, some people call it the dataset ID if you've been around Power BI for a while. If you copy those, go back to the solution and a reset, then you can hit import. And then it takes a couple minutes. Now I've already done this. I'm going to close this out. You'll see it says Power Query or PQL.Assert via Power Automate. And if I click in here, you'll see there's a connection to the Power BI. That is the Power Automate. And then the two variables, environmental variables you set. Now if I click into here, this will take me to the Power Automate flow. And let's go to edit that flow. Now, the way that this flow works is the first couple of steps is coming in, pulling in the workspace ID, semantic model ID from the environmental variables, and then you can hard code how you want to run these tests. Now, I've deliberately made sure that in this example, I have some tests that fail, but I'm going to point it to production. I'm considering that workspace environment production. And then what it will do is the same type of retrieval function, I can actually execute against that model in the service. And then once it gets all the tests, I'm going to parse the results of what tests I can run. And then within an array, I'm going to execute each one of those tests. So let me go ahead and save that. And I'm going to run this flow so you can see what it's like. All right, so at this point, it should be running. It's gone through. If I expand on retrieving the tests, you'll see that it's gotten back the data quality.any and quickchecks.prod.test. So it's going to iterate through those two. It iterates through each one of those tests. You can see it's executing that test, getting the results back, and then I have the Power Automate flow inspecting the past column for each one of the results. And then at the end, if there's any failures, it outputs those failures as a string. Now, if it passes, the flow is going to pass. Now, we've given you a template to work with this so that you can take this to the next step. So what do I mean by that? Well, right now it's going to log this and maybe fail the flow. But with Power Automate, you could have it post a message to Teams, your group chat, which would be nice to get notifications. You can have it send an email. You can have it do a bunch of other things within your Microsoft ecosystem to be able to react to those changes. And this is nice because if you don't have Azure DevOps, you don't have other tools outside of the Microsoft Power Platform system, you can still build tests and leverage Power Automate to be able to run these tests on a regular cadence so that you can see if there's any issues. The best thing is to know about issues before your customers do, because that builds trust because you reach out to them and let them know you're aware of issues and you're going to fix them. They feel more comfortable that you are on top of things. All right. So what I just showed you was our Power Automate template to help you automate testing in the semantic models that are in the service using the test that you built with PQL.Assert. In the next video, we're going to start bringing in AI into the fold, and I'm really excited to show you how to build tests using GitHub Copilot and some interesting tools that I'm excited to show you in the next video. But until then, take care.